Hi everyone, this is my personal psychology and today we're going to talk about patience. And because this podcast is not just about psychology but also includes ideas from Chinese philosophy, we're actually going to start the episode with a chengyu. So a chengyu is a Chinese saying or a proverb that has to offer some wisdom, and it's actually of a special kind of nature or structure because it only has 4 characters. So even if you would translate those characters word by word, you wouldn't necessarily understand what it means or which wisdom it tries to offer. And so the reason for that is that it often is a summary or really the moral condensed in a sentence behind the story. So we always also have to look at the story behind it. And so today's chengyu, which is on patience, is called Ya Miao Zhu Chang. And what that literally means is to pull at the seedlings to help them grow. And so to explain the meaning of that, we now have to have a closer look at the story. Before I read you the story, just a quick comment on the pronunciation. The pronunciation in ancient Chinese is different than today's Mandarin Chinese, for example. And there have been attempts to reconstruct the pronunciation in ancient Chinese, but that's not completely settled. And what I will do is I will read you the story in today's Mandarin Chinese because that's the dialect that I have learned to speak. 松人有名，其妙之不长，而压之者，茫茫然归。谓其人曰：“今日秉矣，与诸妙长矣。积此躯，而忘事者，妙自高矣。” There was a man from Sung who pulled at his seedlings because he was worried about their failure to grow. Having done so, he went on his way home, not realizing what he had done. "I am worn out today," said he to his family. "I have been helping the seedlings to grow." His son rushed out to take a look, and there the seedlings were, all shriveled up. The narrator of the story, who we will get to know later, goes on to comment on the story. 天下者，不助苗长者寡矣，以为无矣；而失之者，不孕苗者也。主之长者，雅苗之也。非徒无益，而有害者。There are few in the world who can resist the urge to help their seedlings grow. There are some who leave the seedlings unattended, thinking that nothing they do will be of any use. They are the people who do not even bother to weed. There are others who help the seedlings grow. They are the people who pull at them. Not only do they fail to help them, but they do the seedlings positive harm. So, what does this story have to tell us about patience? And why does it also concern you, even if you're not a farmer? So, the story is important because what can be hurt by impatience isn't just seedlings, it's you. So, let me explain. The ancient Chinese philosophers thought that human beings and plants actually have a lot in common. So actually, they even had a term that not only referred to human beings or animals or plants, but to all of them at the same time. And the term was called Wan Wu. Wan Wu literally means 10,000 things. And 10,000 is supposed to refer to everything, right? It's a lot of things. So it's all the things. But what it tries to say more pragmatically is living things, all the living things. And it's really worth mentioning that this term wasn't just a term among many, but it really had a crucial role in ancient Chinese philosophy. So for example, in the Tao Te Ching, which is the foundational text in Taoism, what the term that was used to talk about human beings wasn't the term for just human beings, it was the term Wan Wu. So it was always talk about the living things. And I think that this is really important. And well, it has also, I think, a sharp contrast with the conception of human beings in the ancient Western philosophy. So there were different ones, of course, but I think the one that was quite influential was by the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, and he thought of human beings as rational animals. And well, apart from really identifying the human beings as the animals that are rational and sort of distinguishing them from animals, it at the same time puts human beings and animals in the same category, in the same boat, so to say, and at the same time seems to really draw a stronger distinction between animals and plants. And if we go back now to the idea of Wan Wu, of living things and understanding human beings primarily as living things among other living things, that has quite important implications. And so then obviously human beings and plants have a lot in common. And it also means that we can actually learn something about ourselves by studying plant life. And what all plants do, well, I shouldn't say plants, what all living things do is to grow and to develop. Actually, again, this term of Wan Wu wasn't just a term among many, and it has even been called a root metaphor by a recent scholar of ancient Chinese philosophy called Sarah Allan. And what she has argued is that this term, or this, it isn't just like a philosophical concept, it's more a metaphor, right? It's a plant metaphor that sits at the bottom, even deeper than the philosophical concepts, and then gives rise to all the philosophical concepts with which the ancient Chinese philosophers have understood themselves, human beings, life, and the world, you could say. And to give you, well, proof, so to say, or at least evidence that this is really the case, I will give you now one of the most influential passages in ancient Chinese philosophy and in Chinese philosophy as a whole. And you will see that the plant metaphor was also very crucial in this one, and that we will learn something more about patience in this passage. The quote is from the ancient Chinese philosopher Mencius, who, by the way, was also the author of the first quote about the farmer who pulled on his seedlings. And Mencius has a meaning, so Zi stands for master, so you could say that Mencius means Master Meng. And in English, the Latinized translation of that is called Mencius. And that might sound familiar to you because I'm sure you've heard the name Confucius before. And Confucius is the translation of the term Kong Fu Zi, whereby Fu Zi is a respectful term to address a scholar or a teacher. So you could say Kong Fu Zi means Master Kong, but in an even more respectful way. So coming back to Mencius, he was actually a student of Confucius, even though Confucius lived more than 100 years earlier. And because Mencius was a student of Confucius, Mencius is seen as a Confucian philosopher. So the quote that I'm going to read to you now is about the development of Confucian virtues. 此阴之心，人之端也；修武之心，义之端也；此让之心，礼之端也；是非之心，智之端也。The heart of compassion is the germ of benevolence. The heart of shame is the germ of dutifulness. The heart of courtesy and modesty is the germ of observance of the rites. The heart of right and wrong is the germ of wisdom. So for every virtue, we have a germ within us, and we have to develop our virtues just like we cultivate germs. Mencius goes on to say the following about these germs of virtue. 人之有世事端也，有己有四体也。有世事端，而自为不能者，自在之也。Human beings have these four germs, just as they have four limbs. For human beings possessing these four germs, to deny their own potentialities is for them to cripple themselves. So in Confucianism, what should be developed isn't so much personal projects or goals, but virtues. And Mencius tells us that we have germs for these virtues and that these germs are part of our nature. So self-development then is to let these germs grow that are already within you. And so why does it matter that the way to develop ourselves is to let germs grow? It matters because a germ has the source for its growth already within itself. And so what that means is to develop ourselves, we don't need to create something or do something to grow as a person even. So patience in Chinese philosophy is about only making sure that nature can do its job. And that means that you might want to water the plant from time to time, but that's it, right? You don't need to add something. You don't need to create something. And what that also means is that we have to make sure that we avoid disturbing nature, because nature can do its work by itself.